What's up? Welcome in. Hoge Jahns back with you for another episode. I think our only episode this week, actually. But we're going to make it a good one. We got a bunch of questions, a ton of questions, actually, that we've taken from our Twitter account at Hoge Jahns, or maybe Johns's. I think he asked for them.
There you go. Get with it.
Don't follow Johns. Follow at Hoge Jahns.
Or follow both.
Follow both. That's what's going on, everyone? Yeah, we got a lot of questions to address and sort of this mid-week. I don't know. There's a gap here. There's a gap between the draft and rookie.
Technically, you are right. It is midweek. It is Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Which in the work week, that is midweek. It is hump day. Adam, you are on point this morning.
There we go. I'm accurate. That's what matters. Follow us at Hoge Jahns and check out all of our merch at hogejahns.com, which includes this t-shirt I'm wearing and that quarter zip Johns is wearing as well. A lot of great stuff up there for this time of year as the weather slowly warms up for us. I guess we should just get started with the questions.
Katie pulled these questions from social media, and we have no idea what's coming our way.
We don't.
I
didn't even scroll through the questions like I sometimes do just to cheat. I did not do that this time.
I may have cheated this morning just a little bit, but I have no idea what's coming.
Fair enough. All right. Well, Katie, you can throw up the first question for us here. It is from Matthew Edwards, who says, Ben Johnson said the offense will not be the same as Detroit's and that it was going to be built specifically for Caleb Williams. What do you think a Caleb Williams offense will look like?
I think too many people are making too much out of him saying that this won't be Detroit's offense. I think there's going to be a lot of similarities. I think he has a style he wants to play. I think he knows what type of mismatches he wants to recreate from that Detroit offense. Just look at the draft. Look at the arrivals of Colson Loveland and Luther Burden. There's your Laporta and St. Brown. So, yes, there's some different players. He doesn't have the same running backs, but he also has DJ Moore and Roma Dunze outside. Doesn't have those receivers in Detroit. So there'll be some differences, but I think some of the general philosophy, some of the same principles will still be very much the same.
Yeah, I think it's a good point because if you really pay attention, this has been a contradictory topic because, yes, he said that. Yes, I believe him. But at the same time, he's also said Caleb's going to have to learn how to play under center more. And there's going to be more play action. And they went out and got another tight end so that they can run more 12 personnel. And then they went and got a slot receiver. Technically, they've gotten like 3 slot receivers. So really the only thing they haven't done that replicates Detroit's offense is go get 2 really good running backs in the backfield.
Give it a year.
Right.
Good time.
But that doesn't mean that the premise of what he originally said isn't true also, because I think what people need to realize, and I remember talking to some of the assistant coaches about this when we had a chance to talk to them like a month ago or whatever that was. Like playbooks are like this thick. And that playbook that's this thick, and I'm just making that up just to kind of size this up if you're watching on YouTube. The overall premise and philosophy of this imaginary playbook I'm holding is your ideal offense, like your ideal concepts, the things you want to run, the personnel you want to run. And then once you have this and you try to install and test as much out as you can this time of year in OTAs, kind of call it like a testing phase. Because by the time you want to get to training camp, you want to really zero in on what you want to do. That's where I think Ben Johnson is being genuine in saying, well, this isn't going to look exactly like Detroit. We're going to cater it to the personnel we actually have. So after testing all this out from what he ideally wants to run, I do think they will pare that down. And the playbook will be more like this. And it'll be tailored more to Caleb Williams and the rest of the offense's strengths but it's still going to be Ben Johnson's stuff, if that makes sense.
I think if you're looking for like distinguishable differences, there may be some more quarterback runs, some RPOs, what have you, with Caleb Williams. He's just a different, better athlete than Jared Goff. And let's not forget when Ben Johnson first met with Jared Goff, there was a whole range of Rams history that Jared Goff brought with him, and that was installed, and things changed over time. They'll find what works best for Caleb Williams. They could change in year 2 together. So we'll see what happens. But I think the idea that this is going to be some brand new, vastly different thing than what happened in Detroit is misguided.
No, and I am curious to see how Caleb Williams handles it, because I have talked to some smart people who think that Caleb's way more comfortable in shotgun than he is under center. So how he adapts to that will be an interesting storyline this season. All right, next question. Chris Kettle might have missed this, but has there been an official statement about extending Poles' contract? And if not, how much influence will Ben Johnson have on that decision? A lot of what has been done, especially early in the draft, could be argued to be Ben Johnson driven.
There has not been an official statement about extending Ryan Poles' contract. There have been questions about Ryan Poles' contract directed towards, I believe, Kevin Warren at the NFL annual meeting in Palm Beach, Florida. Didn't really get an answer. There's even less clarity on it, but I believe there's been an extension, and I think you and I are in agreement with that. And this idea that it's Ben Johnson driven, yes, because you saw Colson Loveland and Luther Burden get drafted, but I'm not making much. Like, Ben Johnson isn't like completely running the show here. Let's just not get carried away with the influence. The influence is significant. He is the most influential person in that building right now, but Ryan Poles is still his general manager. They're working together.
Yeah, Kevin Fishman had an amazing rant on this back in the, December-ish time period. And I 100% agree with him that for whatever reason, this is the Bears' stance on contract extensions.
They announced one for Ryan Pace.
I know. Well, I think that maybe that's why they regretted that, which is why they've decided to handle this the way they have. Kevin's point was that it's extremely hypocritical that they announce player contracts and lengths and all that stuff becomes public, but the people making those decisions, the fans, don't get to know those contract lengths. I think it's a phenomenal point, and I completely agree with it. But whatever. The Bears have dug their heels in on this topic. They want it to be a mystery for whatever reason. I thought it was notable that Ben Johnson's contract wasn't necessarily kept a secret. Now I don't think that came from the Bears, but it got out there. Or maybe it did, because maybe they wanted to brag about how much they were paying him. I have no idea, but it is interesting that one was made public, and whether Ryan Poles has been extended or not is top secret. Weird, but whatever. The second part of that, I think there's a little bit of revisionist history going on here, in that, like, Ryan Poles is all of a sudden making decisions for Ben Johnson that he didn't make for Matt Eberflus. I think a good GM always makes decisions on personnel with scheme in mind. I mean, that's kind of what they do here in football. He went out and signed Tremaine Edmonds for Matt Eberflus. Went out and drafted a cornerback in Kyler Gordon that fit the scheme. They did plenty of things that were like tailored towards what Matt Eberflus wanted to do when he was the head coach. Now Ben Johnson's the coach, and now that's shifted. I think that's what a good football organization does in that crossover area between the scouting department and the coaching department. I think that's all that's been going on here. I don't think it's anything different. Ben Johnson should have say in the types of players he wants, and I think that Ryan Poles has taken all that into account, but has still been the one making the decisions on the players.
Yeah, I think there's this idea that Ryan Poles didn't get Matt Eberflus the players he wanted. That's also misguided.
It's they signed up.
Tremaine
the
Edmonds is the best example.
But they signed, and now I'm even forgetting these guys' names because they were horrible. But the defensive end from Indy, they signed. The linebacker from Indianapolis, they signed. Like they went out. They were constantly getting players that Matt Eberflus wanted.
I think the best example is Tremaine Edmonds, the
Yeah.
big 4-3 middle linebacker like Brian Urlacher. Not quite as good, but that was the vision.
Yep. All right, next question. It's a good question though, Chris. The Book of Ezra. Do you guys think we're done addressing the left tackle position? We can't really be considering moving right to left tackle. Are there any free agents left on the market? This is a glaring hole that will affect the quarterback's performance all season long if they get it wrong.
They drafted an offensive tackle in the second round. It may not be the first round, but it's still the second round, Ezra. I don't mean to be hard on you for this, but he's a second round pick. Second round picks are expected to start in some capacity. And I know he became, I know Ozzie, Giant Johns became an all ACC player on the right side for Boston College, but he has a left tackle history. Darnell Wright has a left tackle history. Players do move. I get that you don't want that movement to continue throughout their careers. You want to find them homes. You want to find them places where they could succeed for a long period of time. But let's give this time to shake out. They drafted Ozzie Trapillo with the idea that he'll be a starter. They just got to figure out where that's best right now.
Yeah, I think answering the first part of your question depends on how this shakes out over the next few months. I think they're done for now addressing the left tackle position. But if they're forced to make another move in August after training camp because Braxton Jones isn't healthy and Ozzie Trapillo and Karan Amagaji don't look ready, then that's when you circle back to guys like Jason Peters. I'm not saying that's an option now, but remember when the Bears did that before the season. They've gone out and gotten offensive linemen. Guys get cut. Josh Sitton got cut that one year. Bears added him. Like, there'll be more opportunities, even if there aren't any right now. And yeah, I don't view this as a glaring hole. I view it as a question mark that needs to be answered, but you have options to answer that question. And by the way, Braxton Jones doesn't suck. Like I don't really know where this has gone from. The narrative on Braxton Jones was he's a solid starter that you could probably do better if you wanted to. But now it's all of a sudden like this assumption that he can't play. When really the only question should be, is he healthy? Because we know the floor there, if he's healthy, is he's a solid starting left tackle in the same way that Charles Leno was. Can you do better? Sure. Do you have to do better? Not necessarily.
It's hard to do better.
Yeah.
Like there's only like 2 or 3 all pros in the league, everyone. It's very hard to find one of those guys. And one of those guys, when you have one of those guys, you don't let them leave your building. Usually that's how it happens. So I think the idea of having Ozzie, Braxton Jones, Karan Amagaji, and Darnell Wright having some form of competition for figuring this out is an okay starting point heading into this offseason. One has been your starter for years. You know, one's a first-round pick, one's a second-round pick, and one's a third-round pick. 72nd overall. So not a bad place to start in terms of your offseason planning.
All right, next question from Why doesn't anyone talk about Bagent? Are they re-signing him? I
believe he's under contract for one more year.
Yeah, this is his last as a undrafted free agent. He is going into the final year of his rookie deal because those are 3-year contracts, but he will be subject to restricted free agency next year based on whether or not they tender him, which, considering how this has gone so far, you would think that they would not want to just let him walk away. But that's why nobody's talking about Bagent right now, because he's the backup quarterback who's under contract for another season. Callie Queen, what position group do you feel best and who do you feel worst about if either gets the injury bug?
Do I feel best about? I'll tell you the one I feel worst about in terms of the injury bug. It's simple. The quarterback position. Nothing changes your season as quickly as an injury to your starting quarterback.
Well, we would be talking a lot about Bajan then.
Yes, I was just about to say that to revisit the last question from Merm. Then we'll be doing full podcasts about Tyson Bajan. But nothing changes the course of your season like an injury to your quarterback. If there's another position I'm skeptical about in terms of depth right now, it's possibly running back. Truthfully, one injury there, and you're looking at a 7th-round rookie and Roshan Johnson, some combination there. So I think running back would be up on my list just in terms of positions I would feel worse about in terms of injury.
Yeah.
Another one?
Yep.
I guess I'm in a bad mood today. Another one I'm concerned about in terms of depth, safety.
Mm-hmm. So safety doesn't worry me as much because I don't know if you were there for last season, but they didn't have one of their safeties for I think the last 12 games of the season, and it sucked. But like they were okay. It wasn't
Fair
like
enough.
the worst thing ever. Not to say that like they're deep there. I think the other one I agree with you on running back. Linebacker's got to be up there. Especially if TJ Edwards were to go down, I think that would be a problem. I'm not sure that they have somebody capable. Like Jack Sanborn used to be a guy you're like, okay, we can plug him in there for a game and he's going to know what to do. I don't know that we have the answer on that yet if they have that guy. For me, best though is corner. We ranked the position groups on CHGO yesterday actually, and corner's the one spot where they have an all pro type player starter. They have another good starter that they just extended in Kyler Gordon, and Tyreek Stevenson, who needs to take a jump this year, is still a solid starter you could certainly win with. And then there's depth there. So you got Terrell Smith, who's proven he can come in and play at the nickel. You got Josh Blackwell, who's come in and proven he can play. And then you use some draft capital there on Zay Frazier. So I think corner is a spot where they're especially deep if an injury were to happen.
I feel good about the depth at receiver. I feel good about it enough where like an injury, it could survive an injury. You have DJ Moore, you have Luther Burden and Roma Dunze. The two of them are first-round picks. One's a second-round pick. And even as an extension of that, you have Loveland and Kmet as part of your passing game. So I think that collection of players, like your pass catchers, I feel good about that group being able to get through injuries that happen during a season.
That's another good one too, yeah. All right. Sideshow. The odds are still pretty high that the Bears don't win the division. What happens if they are way better but still miss the playoffs?
I guess what would your definition of way better be?
Not
firing your coach in the middle of the season. No Hail Mary controversies.
Yeah. I think let's say 9 or 10 wins, but the division's so good that someone gets left out. I think that's a significant improvement. The context with all that matters, right? Does the coaching look good? Were there areas neglected on the roster? Going back to that question from a few questions ago, which was still a fair question with left tackle, is that just maybe that was a good foreshadowing in that question. Maybe it was a giant problem and they neglected to really address it. And now you're questioning the GM on that. But I think the answer to that question from Sideshow there, if they're way better but still missed the playoffs, then they were just it's a season that was in the right direction.
Yeah, I would still consider it a success. Now the Bears would probably say it wasn't because they didn't make the playoffs, they didn't compete for a Super Bowl, they didn't win any playoff games, and I get all that. But going from 5 wins, a 5-win season full of controversy, to potentially a 9-10 win season where your quarterback takes a big step under your new offensive-minded head coach, like, to me, that's a couple steps in the right direction. Then you're looking playoffs for 2026. Your expectations are higher. Your goals are different. Like, your real goals as an organization are different. The ones they don't really talk about, right? Your honest evaluation of your team. Then things shift. But yeah, is that us answering that question? I hope it is. Like, if they're better, you just hope that they're better than last year, because last year was an absolute mess.
Right. If they're better, they're better. That's a good thing. All right. Braylon asks, hey, Bears fans, B-Man here. Ooh, it's our guy, B-Man.
B-Man.
Wait, B-Man's on Twitter?
I guess so.
Oh my goodness. We need to hit the follow button on that one. How do you foresee the running backs we now have being used, and how do you see the depth chart? Bear down.
DeAndre Swift is safely your number one running back right now. So if you're looking at this as a fantasy question, B-Man, he should be the first Bears running back off the board.
Yeah. Kyle Manungai, I think we'll have a chance to see the field. I think he has a chance to beat out Roshan Johnson for carries. I do think the Bears would like to see Roshan Johnson go back to the role he probably should have been in last year, where it would have been better to see him on third down and in short yardage situations. And yeah, I think that's probably I don't even think there's much debate there. I think that's just kind of how that probably shakes out. And I think it'll be interesting to see. I think they're going to give this a chance for this room to show what they can do. But if it doesn't look great halfway through the preseason, it wouldn't shock me to see somebody added via trade or off the waiver wire or something like that.
I think Roshan Johnson's entering an interesting training camp for himself.
Yeah.
Where he went from this backup running back at Texas who was drafted and then praised. So, what's the word? Effusively? Like, the praise was over the top for his selection about a player who's going to be in the league for a long time for a lot of different reasons. And now you wonder if he has a place on the Bears this year or past this year. That's how the NFL tends to be, you know? So he's one player that I'm watching very, very closely once training camp begins, especially when you start looking at the second teams or who's coming in on third down situations for the Bears, who's getting the short yardage carries, who's getting the goal line carries, when they actually have some contact in training camp. That's what we're watching.
It's interesting. If you're telling me it's 1st and 10 and you're just trying to run between the tackles to get your 4 yards you need on first down, who's the running back you trust the most to do that right now?
I don't know. I don't have an answer for you.
I think it's Kyle Manungai.
Come on.
Yeah,
I'm not ready to go down there. I want to see the guy like at training camp or this weekend first at rookie mini camp.
But Johns, that's why I was very specific on that specific situation. It's 1st and 10. You want 4 yards. You're running between the tackles. You're not running outside. Who do you trust to be patient, to hit that hole and get those 4 yards? I think if you actually watch and dive into Kyle Manungai's tape compared to what the Bears have on the roster, it's that guy. That's what I think is scary right now about the Bears running back room. DeAndre's just a guy who can still hit the home run, but sometimes you just need the guy to do that on first down.
I like to see DeAndre Swift hit a few more doubles before we start talking about home runs.
That's
because
true.
I feel like there's a lot of 4-yard carries. It could have been 14-yard carries if he breaks one tackle.
Yeah. All right. Juan asks, what players will have a make or break type preseason given how the draft panned out? What players have the most to prove this summer?
Well, I just gave you one, Roshan Johnson. I'm not saying he's on the bubble, but his role is up for grabs. I think that's a good way to put it. Like, his snaps are up for grabs.
Yeah.
Another would be Karan Amagaji for me. We knew he was coming in as developmental prospect, but when you're the 72nd pick you're kind of held to that. I know it's a third rounder, not a second rounder, but he has the physical attributes to seemingly be a capable left tackle or right tackle. But I feel like there could be a transition coming for him to the interior. So those are two names that are at the top of my list.
Can I give you a couple defensive linemen?
Go for it.
One whose job I don't think is necessarily in jeopardy, but it is kind of make or break time, and that would be Gervon Dexter. I don't think he's on the bubble. I think he'll be on the team, but in terms of future, in terms of how much he can prove in year 3 to kind of set himself up to be here, either be here long term or maybe be more of a, I don't know, Jonathan Bullard type who ended up going elsewhere and is still in the league. I think it's kind of make or break time for him. And then one guy who probably almost certainly definitely is on the bubble, and you could maybe even argue it's a long shot for him to make the team, would be Dominique Robinson. But I think given the fact that the Bears didn't make a big splash at edge in the draft, the door's still open there. Make or break time. Have a big preseason. You can still make the team. Maybe still see the field, even if the odds are against you right now. So there's a couple on the defense.
Well, I think his competition could get a bit interesting if the Bears see, Gervon Dexter, for example, as a big defensive end that Dennis Allen would like to use. Not your speed guy, but someone who could still set the edge and still be a powerful contributor on the line of scrimmage. Can I give you one last big name? Because I think we're all going to be watching how he handles this transition to a new staff. Tyreek Stevenson.
Yeah.
After everything that transpired last year, he is, to me, the most notable headliner going into this offseason program. He's going to be a story at the start of training camp. Like everything he does will be closely watched.
Yeah. 100%. I just like sort of nitpick. I feel like it's more of like a make or break season for him.
Okay.
I don't necessarily think like the summer or the preseason is. I mean, it all is, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you see
go back to the question? To your question. Yes.
Yeah.
Make or break year. I would say it's a make or break year. To Juan's point, no, he doesn't. This isn't a preseason concern. This isn't a summer concern. But if I had to give you a make or break season, you're correct. If we're being semantically accurate, this is a big season for Tyreek Stevenson.
Yeah, 100%. All right. Dan Olson asks, how can the Bears improve the safety position? I don't feel comfortable with what they have there. Don't have an obvious answer for you. I think what they have is what they have. I think they feel like their depth there and Jonathan Owens and Elijah Hicks is okay. Those guys are capable that they could trust to be on the field. But yeah, it's kind of risky with what they've done. It's kind of the same thing I talk about at left tackle. Like I don't view it as a glaring hole, but it is a fair question.
But at least the Bears drafted an offensive tackle.
Right.
To me, safety right now looks like a position where, like, well, you can't address every need in the off season. It's tough. Like somehow safety was moved to the bottom of the list, and which is okay. I think teams prioritize safety differently. Now I think there's a couple free agents that could interest the Bears down the line, but yeah, it seems like a tough spot given that Kevin Byard only has 1 year left in his contract and Jaquan Brisker has that long concussion history.
All right, Ryan Vermeer, what team do you want to see the Bears play on opening weekend?
I want opening night, Thursday Night Football, on the road against the Philadelphia Eagles. There's a lot of selfish reasons why I want that.
Yes.
But that's what I want.
Johns might have plans for that Saturday already that he's recruiting me to join in on, and I'm waiting to see what the schedule looks like.
You got 7 days, 8 days.
I know. However, regardless of those selfish reasons, I actually agree with you. I'm glad this question came up. It's interesting timing, Ryan, because we are already planning our CHGO show today, and Mark Carmen and I are both going to give our top 5, let's call them requests for the Bears schedule. So a little teaser for you there on the other show. But number 1 on that list, actually, I don't know if it'll be number 1, but it'll be on the list, is Ben Johnson wants that smoke. All right, go play the defending champions on opening night. And by the way, I'll share this with you. I probably am reading a little bit too much into it, but I got in my car the other day after getting off the train and turned on Waddle and Sylvie. Shout out to Waddle and Sylvie. They were talking to Mike Tirico, and Tirico mentioned how much he's looking forward to calling a Bears game early in the season.
Do it, NFL. Do it.
Now, I have no idea if he already knows what the opening night matchup is, but I took note of that when I heard that. So, yeah, I'm all in on that idea.
Can I give you my top request for the season?
Mm-hmm. So you don't steal my entire list.
The Vegas game in early December.
Oh, yeah. Or, I mean, November would be fine. Like, the Arizona game last year was perfect.
What time was that?
It was like November. Like, the weather had started to turn in Chicago. Yeah. And it was still, because you got to be a little careful with Arizona. Once you get, or even Vegas is even worse. Once you get into December, it could be kind of chilly there. And I still want it to be like pool weather.
You want the pool.
Yeah.
Okay. I will accept late November for the Vegas game if I'm making my request. When Roger Goodell listens to this episode later, or the schedule makers, we know you listen. That's what we want.
Yeah.
You'd make a lot of Bears fans happy, put it that way.
I think that game's going to be well attended by Bears fans regardless of when it is. But yes, I hear you. They've been ignoring my request on Minnesota for years now. Can we just get a game in Minnesota in September? It's beautiful in September. It's always. Have we ever been to a Bears-Vikings game that has been above 20 degrees? Now, they have a roof. I get it.
It was a long time ago.
My point is, you go to Minnesota, it's always freezing cold there.
Yeah, I want to say it was like 10 years ago.
Yeah. They never play there early in the season. Never. All right, J.D. Brown, out of this rookie class, which player do you feel has the best chance of playing the most snaps throughout their rookie season?
Easy. Colston Loveland.
Oh,
well, okay.
Wait, can I throw a curveball?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. If Ozzie wins the job, offensive linemen don't come off the field.
True. He would be your winner.
Yeah, because otherwise, if you're thinking like Luther Burden, but he's going to be the third wide receiver. So if they're running a lot of 12 personnel, you think he's coming off the field in those spots. I don't think Loveland's a lock, though, to be like on the field.
No,
this will be fascinating. No, I know, but not like constantly. It's hard being a rookie tight end. Dude, those snaps between Cole Kmet and Colson Loveland will be very interesting to watch, especially early in the season.
So his rookie season, Sam Laporta's rookie season, he appeared in 17 games, 14 starts. He was on the field for 981 snaps. That is 83% of the offensive snaps for Detroit.
I need a reminder on when they traded TJ Hawkinson. Was that the season before they drafted Laporta, or was it the same season because they had Laporta? I believe it was the year before. I think they traded him in the middle of the year, and then they drafted Laporta, right?
Correct.
Okay. Because I guess my point is, did Detroit have another tight end like Cole Kmet already there?
They did. Hold on. They did. His name is Brock Wright.
Yeah, but Cole Kmet's better than Brock Wright.
Cole Kmet's better than Brock Wright, but Brock Wright just to give you an idea, in 2023 with Sam Laporta, and he was there for TJ Hawkinson as well. So here's Brock Wright, the number 2 tight end's snap counts under Ben Johnson. Sorry. 2022, 591 snaps, 52%. 2023, 423 snaps, 44%. 2024, 583, 51%. There seems to be an injury there in 2023, which limited his game appearances down from 17
It is
to
interesting
14.
that that's still 50%. That shows you how much 12 personnel they're running. My point is just, though, in the comparison of Laporta's rookie season, the Lions did not have another established tight end who was a team captain and on his second contract with the team that drafted him for pretty damn good money. That's the conundrum that they're going to have to work out this year with Cole Kmet and Colson Loveland early in the season. That's a fun question there. Good question, JD. I like that. Trying to think if there's any other sleepers.
Shamar Turner will play a bunch.
He will, but he's going to be rotational. Ruben Hippolyte, best case scenario, is a third linebacker.
A lot of special team snaps coming his way.
Yeah, good question, though. All right, Griff, how excited are you to watch Luther Burden and Tyreek Stevenson go at it in camp? 2 strong personalities who both have to harness it.
This question kind of has me thinking about the time we were on the sidelines where Chase Claypool is just yelling at Tyreek Stevenson. Yelling at him. And Tyreek Stevenson isn't saying a word, or at least words we can't hear. Remember that interaction? Like, we were all taking note of that.
Yeah.
It was so loud. And just to look like, I remember looking back at it now, like some players were kind of didn't like it, just reading the body language. And
it was a bad day for Chase Claypool.
Yes. Yeah, well, that was the
And
start.
I thought Tyreek Stevenson actually handled it very well.
Yeah.
And
Tyreek Stevenson was winning the day. I think he had an interception a few plays later.
And I think John Hoke, who's not on the staff anymore, but I thought he handled that whole situation very well too. It was not good for Chase Claypool. Shout out to the Dallas Cowboys, though, who just fell into the trap of trading for a former second-round wide receiver that the Steelers can't wait to get rid of. See how that works out.
There is a commenter in The Athletic who has been a big defender of George Pickkins, or he's been a big critic of the Bears for not taking George Pickkins.
Mm-hmm.
So my next Bears article, I feel like, is just going to fill up with everyone waiting to pile on. Is it Warren Z? I forget, but just wanted to draft George Pickkins, was tracking his career stats. It didn't matter what article it was. Hey, did you guys see what George Pickkins did this weekend?
Yeah.
Different conversation. Kyler Gordon, he got his deal with the Bears. George Pickkins got traded.
Don't you think Matt Eberflus, though, was somewhere inside the Star just yelling? He probably not yelling, but don't do it. They did it anyway. Okay. Anyway, in team drills, these two probably won't go up against each other that much, to be honest with you, because Burden's going to be probably mostly in the slot. So that's more of a Kyler Gordon matchup. However, one-on-ones, they line up against whoever. And yeah, that will be fun to watch.
Yeah, I enjoyed to go back to 2018 when Anthony Miller came in and he played with some energy. He had a very good training camp down in Bourbonnais. In his matchups against Prince and Mukamara and Kyle Fuller that year were fun to watch, especially in individual drills. So I'm looking forward to seeing Luther Burden have those matchups against Stevenson and Jalen Johnson this year.
All right, I think we got one more. Joe, what is the floor and ceiling this season for this team?
I think the floor is 6 wins. I think if they hit 6 wins, you have a transition that may be a bit longer for Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams, where the connection just isn't working, or There's some ugly games in there. Even in a good season, you could have some ugly games. The ceiling is winning the division. I think it's that range. It's the Bears. You never know. You could be as optimistic as you want to be, and then 1 or 2 injuries happen, and this season's just different.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing about you get. I guess any floor you have to account for what happens if X player gets hurt. You never want to talk about the quarterback, but it's always a possibility. I think Tyson Bagent is capable, though, of being like a 500. He has already did that on a bad team. He went 2-2 in 4 starts. I'm gonna be a little optimistic. I'm gonna actually say the floor is 8 wins, Johns.
Okay.
I want to say 7, but I think there's too much talent here on offense, and we all think they hit a home run with this head coach hire, and it'd just be shocking to me if it was a disaster. They're going to be better offensively, and they made a really good hire, defensive coordinator too. That tells me like they're going to keep that side of the ball at least afloat to help support the offense. The schedule is not terribly hard. The road schedule is, but the home schedule is pretty easy, to be honest with you. It's a tough division, but I think they're going to be better equipped to worst case scenario win at least 2 of those divisional games, and 3-3 is, I think, realistic. So I'm going to say the floor is 8. I think the ceiling, though, is things really click, and they're okay. Again, ceiling 12 wins in the regular season. They win the division and make a run to at least the division. Okay. Again, ceiling championship round. Ceiling. I think more realistic is wild card, win 1 playoff game would be a good season for the Chicago Bears.
History tells me the floor is always lower, like than you want it to be.
100%.
There's like the ground floor, and then there's
the Bears floor,
the base, which is the basement.
Yeah.
So like you're prepared for the worst. History also tells me that there's like I think 2018 is a fair comparison. I really do. You have a defense with some talented players being coached by an experienced defensive coordinator, and you have an offensive mind coming in. Now Ben Johnson is a better coaching candidate, better coach, better offensive mind than Matt Nagy was. The play calling experience separates himself from Matt Nagy, distinguishes him considerably, in my opinion. And you have that young quarterback in his second year with a lot of weapons around him. You saw what happened in 2018. Things worked. Things clicked. The defense worked. Things clicked. So I think 2018, for a lot of reasons, is a fair comparison for the future here.
No, I think it's a good point because I think you have a good mix of hungry veterans who are sick of losing, that are begging to be coached a certain way, mixed with young talent that, even if it's temporary, like let's even look at this negatively, that like in the Nagy way, it clicked for 1 year and then it all fell apart. Even if it's temporary, the recipe is there for that type of thing to happen this year. Just the makeup of the roster, the timing of it, the GM sticking around, getting another chance at a head coach hire. There's a lot of similarities there. Now, obviously, you hope that it's not temporary, that it clicks for real. But I think if you want to make a fair comparison between 2018 and 2025, I think there's a lot of signs that type of thing could happen. So yeah, and the offense should be even better than that offense was. That offense was really benefiting from an amazing defense that year.
I think, well, into your point about, well, Ben Johnson seems like, he has some staying power just based on what he did in Detroit. Like it worked for 3 years, where Matt Nagy was kind of a wild card coming in here. Andy Reid treat, but didn't call plays exclusively. Andy Reid was the major influence there. Detroit's offense was Ben Johnson's offense. I think there is comfort in knowing that. Like, Bears have learned something from their past here. You hope.
That's good. That's good.
You hope.
Yeah. All right, we are out of here. It's gonna wrap it up. Awesome questions, though. That was a lot of fun to do. Like getting those mailbag type episodes in here every once in a while, especially when things slow down a little bit on the NFL calendar. That will be our one and only episode of this week. Couple reasons for that, including some technical things on the back end. We will have rookie minicamp covered for you over the weekend, though, so we'll have something to react to early next week, and then the schedule comes out. So we'll have that to react to later in the week as well. So you can count on 2 episodes next week for sure here on Hoge Jahns. A little bit of a rookie minicamp recap and a schedule recap. Once that all comes out, we'll see how much Roger Goodell was actually listening to this episode.
Come on, Raj.
Should be on his desk immediately. I like to call him RG1.
I will be so happy. So happy. The energy that you would feel coming through this podcast would be significant if the Bears get week 1 in Philadelphia and this, like, the first weekend of December in Las Vegas. I'd be a very happy father, husband, man from Chicago.
What about
Put that on
games
a shirt?
What about games on Thanksgiving and Christmas Day?
I'm okay. Like, I've already given up on Thanksgiving. Fine.
Yeah, but not Christmas Day. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fine.
By the way, that would be awesome. Bears Lions in Detroit on Thanksgiving. Ben Johnson, homecoming.
I don't want to
great.
ruin your show for later, but I'm almost expecting that, which is
I know.
Fine.
I know.
So be it.
It'll be discussed. It'll be discussed. All right, follow us on Twitter at Adam Hoge, at Adam Johns, at Hogan Johns. Those are your handles pretty much everywhere. Twitter, X, Instagram. You can find it all there. Extra bonus clips up there as well on the Hogan Johns accounts. Thanks to our producer, Katie Langen, for producing. She's awesome. She does a great job. Helped get all those questions on the screen, getting things rolling here. And go to hoganjohns.com for all the great merch like we're wearing on today's show. Hope everybody has a great weekend. We'll be back next week to recap rookie minicamp and judge how happy Adam Johns will be with the Bears schedule.
See ya.